I call the meeting to order, is there anybody here that plans to speak tonight that has not signed the sign-up list, that would like to speak? Because once I call the meeting to order, if you have not signed the list, you will not be allowed to speak. Is there anybody here? Hearing none, I'd like to call our meeting to order. Thank everybody for coming. Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Evans, safety instructions, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Good evening to everyone. I'd like to call on Ms. Natalie Besson to give us our safety instructions for tonight.
Good evening. To provide for the safety of those attending this meeting, please listen to the following instructions in case of an emergency. First, please take a moment to note where your exits are. If an emergency arises that prompts us to evacuate, please exit this room in a quick and orderly manner through one of the two doors to your right, and then proceed to the nearest stairwell, directions to which are indicated by the exit signs. Once you exit the building, we ask that you safely cross Granville Street, which is the street that runs beside our building, to our parking lot to be safely away from the building. Our staff will provide additional direction and assistance as needed. In the case of a tornado warning, please exit this room into the hallway where we will all remain until it is safe to exit. And in the event of an active shooter in the building, if there is an accessible escape path, please run and try to evacuate the premises. If you can't evacuate, find a place to hide where you are less likely to be found and lock any doors that you can. And as a last resort, and only if your life is in imminent danger, please fight. Our staff will provide additional assistance on what to do. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Bess. Ms. Harris, prayer, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, we again thank you for another day of life, health, and strength. Lord, we thank you for those who are gathered, those who may be watching. Lord, we ask you to continue to give us the mind and the heart to do what is right for all of our citizens of Edgecombe County. This we ask in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen.
Since you two just came in, Mr. Rand, is any of your intent to speak on the public hearing?
Yeah, I'll say something.
If it is, please come sign up.
Sign up.
Please come sign up.
And that's different from public petitions, right?
Public petition too, I think it's 2 sign-up sheets, sir.
You got a snap sheet for public petitions too. Speak on that last petition also.
Ladies and gentlemen, at our last meeting, we filled the vacancy of Reverend E. Wayne Hines as commissioner. At this time, we will have a swearing in of Mr. L.D. Whitler for commissioner as District 7. Mr. Whitler, would you please come up? Madam Clerk?
Good evening, Your Honor.
Do you have anyone you want to stand with you?
Did you want your other son with? Larry, go ahead.
First, I say good evening.
Good
evening. I thank you all for allowing me to be here, Chairman Wiggins, and to the board. Thank you all. Say aye, and then just give me your name, and then just repeat. I couldn't hear you. I
DeWitt Woodley,
do solemnly
do solemnly
and sincerely swear
and sincerely swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States,
of the United States,
that I will be faithful,
that I will be faithful,
bear true allegiance
bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional
and to the constitutional
powers and authorities
powers and authorities
which are or may be
which are or may be
established for the government thereof,
established for the government thereof,
that I will
that I will
endeavor to support,
endeavor to support,
maintain,
maintain,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws of said state,
and laws of said state,
not inconsistent with
not inconsistent with
the Constitution
the Constitution
of the United States,
of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge
to the best of my knowledge
and ability,
and ability,
and that I will
that I will
faithfully
faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of my office
of my office
as County Commissioner
as County Commissioner
of Edgecombe County.
of Edgecombe County.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a brief recess. If anybody would like to come congratulate Commissioner L. DeWitt Woodley. If anybody would like to come up, please come up. And also, there were a few people came in late. And before I said when we started the meeting, but we're going to have tolerance. A few of you came in late. If any of you would like to sign up to speak, please come to the clerk and sign, intend to speak at the public hearing while we're in recess. We'll be in recess for about 5 minutes. We now stand in recess. Go right ahead.
That's all right.
I'll call our meeting back to order, and I understand I missed the motion. You have the minutes of our previous meeting in your package.
And the October 2nd, that special meeting, those minutes are at your seat as well, and they were sent to you in advance of the meeting.
And since Mr. Whitley was not here that time, I take a motion from anybody but him. This second questions. All in favor, let it be known by a voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call a public hearing to order to discuss Unified Development Orders Text Amendment 25 to our UDO. Our public hearing is called to order. Mr. Peters, would you please read the public notice?
Yes, sir. Public notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Board of Commissioners of Edgecombe County on Monday, November 3rd, 2025, at 6:00 p.m. in the Jonathan Felton Commissioners Room, second floor, County Administrative Building, 201 St. Andrews Street, Tarboro, North Carolina, to amend the Unified Development Ordinance. The proposed text amendment would add data center and crypto mining operation and the related terms and standards to the applicable sections of the Edgecombe County Unified Development Ordinance, UDO. Copies of the proposed amendments are available for public inspection during business hours, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the County Planning Office, Room 205, County Administrative Building, 201 St. Andrews Street, Tarboro, North Carolina. All parties in interest and all interested residents are invited and urged to be present and make their views known. This the 23rd day of October, 2025, by order of the Board of Commissioners. Tammy Faison, Clerk to the Board.
Mr. Evans?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call for Mr. Durbin Spell, who is our planning director. He will review with you the proposed amendments to the our Unified Development Ordinance. We'll also outline changes that were made since your recent conversation per your instructions, and also give you some alternatives to consider.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
So, the applicant being Edgecombe County, and the applicant is requesting UDO text amendment to add a crypto mining operation and data center use and associated language to the Unified Development Ordinance. So, crypto mining operation is to be permitted through the conditional rezoning process in the general industrial M2 district and allowed as a planned development as well. The data center use is to be permitted by right in the general industrial district, M2 district, and allowed also as a planned development. And as you see in the map, these are the areas in the county that are currently zoned M2 General Industrial District. So per the meeting we had a couple of weeks ago, so staff did go and change the timing of the neighborhood meeting, which is now proposed to occur after the application is submitted and no later than 10 days prior to the planning board meeting. Minimum setback is to be 100 feet unless the project shares a lot line with a residential zone property that has an existing or approved dwelling unit in which the setback will increase to 500 feet. The type C buffer will be required, as well as additional landscaping may be required to help a project meet the minimum sound level requirement. There are no height restrictions in the general industrial M2 district. However, height restrictions could be proposed as a condition for projects that have to go through the conditional zoning or plan development process. As for maximum noise level, in the draft that you have it before you, we have 60 dBA during the hours of 7 a.m., 6 p.m., and 50 dBA during the night. And as you see, 60, that's about the same level as having normal conversation or hearing background music at a store or restaurant. So data centers and crypto mining operations also must submit attestation of electrical and water capacity from public utility providers when obtaining initial building permit approval, as well as part of the annual zoning compliance permit. If the Board of Commissioners were to adopt this language tonight, we have one minor change, and that is section 4.3.30.I. As you see the highlighted area, it currently reads, in cases where a data center or crypto mining operation utilizes electricity from a public electricity service provider, the following standards shall apply. Staff asks you, again, if you adopt this language, to change that to, in cases where a data center or crypto mining operation utilizes electricity in any amount from a public electricity service provider, including for uses and or activities incidental to the data center itself, the following standards shall apply. On-site generators shall be fully enclosed, meet relevant fire standards, and shall receive all required state and federal permits. And then there are some staff recommended considerations that Mr. Evans will discuss.
Thank you, Durbin. And certainly, if you all have any questions about what he's covered so far, you're welcome to ask those now. I wanted to bring a few other things to your attention. As you know, we're looking at this text amendment in our Unified Development Ordinance that would, just as a recap, that would add data centers and data mining as a permitted use with these development standards that we're outlining in our M2 zones. Right now, the only two areas currently zoned M2 in the county is Kingsborough Business Park and another parcel north of Kingsborough. One of the things that we've talked about right much, and has been a concern, certainly a valid concern from everyone, are the noise limits. What kind of sound will this create? Would that become what some may consider noise pollution? So we've done a lot of discussion we've had with this board, with the planning board. We've done a lot of studying from staff and our broader team. One of the things we want to point out is that, as we've mentioned before, our UDO does address sound or noise limits in other areas. So Durbin will show you, here are some other sections in our current ordinance that addresses a sound limit or a sound maximum. For example, in these uses that include agricultural storage and processing, gasoline, government operations, I won't read that entire list. Our ordinance currently says that those sounds cannot exceed 70 decibels and can be located no closer than 100 feet to the nearest residence. The next slide will show you other areas where it also includes a noise or a sound limit of 70 decibels, no closer than 100 feet in all of these uses. The exception would be here for salvage and junk yards. They can be no closer than 400 feet from the nearest residence. The next slide goes on. Another area where a sound limit is addressed in our current ordinance is with wind energy conversion. In that case, the noise level is not to exceed 55 decibels. The next slide shows here, this is a map that Mike Matthews went out and did went out to do some samples of what the current noise limits are. I'm going to ask Mike. He's the most familiar with this map here for him to describe to you and to the audience what this map here represents.
Thank you. So what you're looking at is, what I did was I took a noise level reading device, which actually I'm using my phone. There's an app on your phone, and I downloaded it. But I have compared it to actual high dollar devices, and they were fairly similar, maybe off by a couple tenths of a point or something like that, but it's in the same neighborhood. So when we're talking about decibels and we're talking about noise in general, there's a difference in a noise that, just like me standing up here talking, at some point in time I'm going to shut up and I'm going to sit down. But as long as I'm talking, the decibels are going to be higher. If none of us breathe right now, you can hear the air running. That is a constant noise. As long as that air is on, that is going to be a constant noise. That is a 24-hour-a-day noise. There is a distinction between if you're standing out here on Kingsborough Bridge and you're listening to traffic go by. As long as if you go out there at 7 o'clock in the morning or 5:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the afternoon, the noise is going to be increased because people are traveling to and from work. If you go out there at 9 o'clock at night when the traffic is less, the noise is going to be less. So the numbers that you see up here, I took anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes at each site. Obviously, that's not a 24-hour period. These are averages that I received over that 15 to 20-minute period. So obviously, they can differ depending on how long you're there. If you're looking at right in the middle of it, you're going to see 63.3. That is actually at our water storage tank that is located right beside Kanban, or by the railroad tracks as well. The average reading I got there over a 15 to 20-minute period was about a 63.3. If you go a little bit north of 64, between 64 and 64 alternate, the average there was about 66.1. If you go down to Corning, average was about 59.9. I did see those levels about 63 to 64. Some of them dropped down to the mid to low 50s. I also turned around and went down to Antioch Road, to the closest home that I could find that was as near what I call our industrial park as possible. Those readings were around about a 52.3. Now, the distinction between those two is if I'm standing at the water tower, I have no buffer between a lot of our sites. If I'm on Antioch Road, I have a buffer of trees, and that is the only buffer I have. If I go down to Powell Road, I actually stood on the railroad tracks where it's an open line of sight all the way down the railroad tracks to where K-Man or QVC would be. I took those readings for about a 15 to 20-minute period, come out to be about a 53.1. Now that also includes, you've got a large buffer of trees that are there. So that is the information I tried to gather at Kingsborough as to where we are currently with what we have that is there now. I will remind you that I took these readings somewhere in about the mid-afternoon. I wanted to try. I went back out actually a couple of nights ago around about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night and took a reading, and the readings were still, I want to say somewhere around about 62, 61, somewhere around our water tower, but it was about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. These readings were taken in the mid-afternoon. So obviously they're going to be a little bit higher during the day than they are later at night.
You got anything?
Thank you, Mike. Any questions?
Any questions?
So we wanted to share that with you because we certainly understand that as we have the opportunity to put provisions in this text amendment, if you all adopt it, that we can put some guardrails around the impacts beyond, the facility to the neighboring residents and folks that might be near it. And so I think that's a good idea for us to do that. We want to be mindful of that. We wanted to share this with you because I think that to some degree will be difficult for us considering the noise limits that you have already out there or what you would experience out there. As Mike said, now the noise that you will hear, the levels that they will be on, they fluctuate depending on if there's a truck coming by, the time of the day, wind blowing, and all of those things. But I think it might be somewhat challenging for us to be able to try to regulate below these limits when we see that there's something of a baseline above it already. And so certainly would invite you to hear from the public tonight. I would like to go ahead and show you some other things that may be some alternatives for you to consider. As it stands right now, what has gone before the planning board at their last meeting is the noise levels or the sound levels to be at 60 during the day and 50 at night, correct? Regardless of if there's a residential structure.
Well, that change was made at the call to. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so what could be an alternative would be to increase those from 60 to 70 during the day and 50 to 55 at night is an alternative, if you want to consider other alternatives. Another alternative would be adding back the language from the previous draft that addresses projects that not border a lot within an existing or approved residential dwelling unit to have a noise limit measured at the property line of 70. Again, where we had before, if there's no dwelling or planned dwelling next to it, that the limit could be, the maximum limit could be 70 decibels. A third alternative could be adding language in there, as you see there highlighted in red, where there's some acknowledgement of existing ambient sound levels there, wherein existing ambient sound levels could be determined by a third-party professional who's certified to do that, and that you put in place language that says that they shall not increase the existing ambient sound levels or these limits, whichever is greater. So those are alternatives for you to consider once you hear from the public tonight and make a decision as to if you're going to move forward with the text amendment and how you'd like to do that. And I believe that's the case. Any questions for staff?
Any questions? If so, we'll call you back. Okay. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call for comments. Madam Clerk, would you please call the first person to sign up?
Mr. C.B. Doctor.
Mr. Chairman, I'm C.V. Daughtry, 4460 Butterbrick Road, Rocky Mount. And I thank you and your fellow commissioners and the county staff and the general public for this time to give you a little history about the Kingsborough Industrial Park and a quick comparison of property tax revenues from properties. I gave you a list of some properties I've been involved in developing the last 3 or 4 years, and you can see it's created those plus those that's on the record to be developed, like the 200 lots here in town on Sherwood Drive. It would drive it up to about $1 million a year in annual revenues. One data center, $25 million annually. In the 90s, I served as vice chairman of the Edgecombe County Commissioners, and we voted to place a zoning overlay over the area which is evolved into the Kingsborough Industrial Park. We have had many companies show interest in our industrial park. They have asked for and received some incentives from coming like Corning, and of course a lot of money was spent on others and incentives offered. However, because of politics, money, management, not enough power, and this was a big one, in the local electric grid system, I think we're going to have somebody to talk about that tonight. There's nothing there except Corning. So, you know, we planned it back in the 90s, and we're in the 20s in 2026, yeah, that's plenty about, and we're still looking. So as part owner of the Energy Storage Solution, which is a development company of battery storage sites and data sites with energy production, I ask you to support this project and take your link in the chain that started way back then. We recognized we needed a big industrial park. And this is the spinoff from an industrial park can make a positive influence on our economy, such as meeting the county budget. And I think this past year, if you hadn't had the privilege of evaluation increase, that might have been relatively difficult. And we could have excess funds to develop local, for more incentives and financial support for much needed educational facilities and teacher retention, and funds to expand our SURE programs on crime, and funds to bring the animal shelter online. This is just street talk, but I hear this problem of staffing that now we get the animal shelter, just staffing it. I'm going to ask you some questions. You don't have to answer them. How many of you worked in tobacco, peanuts, or corn, or cotton back in your younger days? How many of you do it now? How many of you have an iPad, a cell phone, a computer, or some electronic device that information goes through a data center? The future is more information, which requires more energy production and more data centers. The development team has asked for no incentives. A lot of those companies got to have this privilege and got to be a tier something to get this and this. We've asked for nothing. Plus, we've agreed to purchase the land from the county that has been already, some of it's already been advertised. Also, we have agreed to provide funding to upgrade our local natural gas. And in the end, we will get what we need, and there would be more surplus in the system than it is presently. We are currently working with Mr. Evans to provide the county with financial contracts and construction contracts for operational contracts and bonding to secure the county from any financial liability. This is a really big one. The investors are calling us daily. They want to be here, and they have the engineering, the construction team, and the money to do this project. Thank you for your time and for your continued service to the people of Edgecombe County. Together, we can make this project a model for growth, energy innovation, and an opportunity for others in years to come. Thank you.
Next, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Dan Schaefer.
Good evening. I want to thank you for your time and your effort and your consideration. I'm Dan Schaefer, President of Energy Storage Solutions. We are primarily an energy company. We specialize in energy storage, and we're adding energy generation along with the data centers. We primarily consider ourselves an energy company that are going to be funded by data. Now, what we're proposing to do here in Edgecombe County is to solve the energy issue. Our target is to generate 900 megawatts AC of energy. Along with that, we will be coupling it with a 3,600 megawatt energy storage system. And of course, the data center that will be developed with it will pay for the entire system. We will be generating twice as much power as the data center will require. We will require some redundancy to support the data center, but we'll have in excess of 200 to 300 megawatts of generated power that could be deployed upon the grid in Edgecombe County, the city of Rocky Mount, Tarboro, the surrounding area. We think that it'll give the county the opportunity to bring in more manufacturing, more industry, more business, all the things that the county very badly needs, and we want to participate in making it possible. And the key issue is energy, energy, and energy. I want to thank everybody for the effort and all the cooperation we've received from the county. I know this is a new endeavor for everyone, and we anticipated a lot of questions and a lot of answers. And as we go forward, I think that we'll be able to resolve any issues. As to the proposals on the noise level, I think that, in my opinion, the only one that will actually work for us is the third option. If you go out on where the property line will be up against Highway 64, we can't do anything about the noise that's going to be created. along 64 today, and it's going to get a little noisier as things continue to grow and expand. But if we're required to not increase the noise levels, I think you'll find at the top of our acoustic walls, there'll be more noise on the highway by far than what's going to be generated within the data center operation. But it would be somewhat difficult to determine what noise is on this side of the wall and what noise is on that side of the wall. So if we bring in professional consultants to do a survey with graphs and sound levels for a week or two, so that we'll know what the noise levels are 24 hours a day and what it is that we can't, any levels that we can't increase the noise level on, that should be very workable. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Bob Pike?
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman Wiggins. I'm Bob Pike, 386 Northwest Main Street, Rocky Mount. I'm the President and CEO of Carolina's Gateway Partnership, mainly tasked with economic development for Edgecombe County, Rocky Mount, and the town of Tarboro. My main goal and goal of our organization is to bring tax revenue and jobs to Edgecombe County. And it's a firm believer, as we all know, in this day and time, power is the key to economic growth. We've started hearing of this data center craze for the last several years, but especially because of our location. It's been a high level of interest for our region, as well as our particular areas of our industrial development in our community, because of the assets that we have, available power today, as well as water availability, adequate natural gas, in particular also our speed of our internet in this location is throughout the county. All has made very desirable for the data center industry to locate facilities in our region. As we've talked about several times, we do not want to give up power that we have because into one particular project, because we want to have multiple projects to bring multiple jobs. And one of the things that's come about in this particular project that we're talking about started off as data center conversations, but it's evolved over time into power generation is the first and foremost opportunity I see in terms of economic development. You know, we talked about economic development more in the future, attracting companies, but also economic development is also for existing industries. And it's one thing as our organization has been working on is helping our existing industries here in our county, in our municipalities. And because of that, the future of power availability is so critical. And we have to have that assurance for existing companies, one, to maintain operations. If there's a concern about losing power or brownouts or interruptions of any kind, people get concerned, not to mention our residential community that rely on power in everything we do in life. And then also future opportunities. A lot of time and treasure the county has invested into Kingsborough Industrial Park. It's #1 mega site in the state. We've just actually in the process of expanding that park through some additional options. So we're setting the stage to be, or you have set the stage to be the premier industrial site in the state of North Carolina. With that, we have to show and demonstrate to new projects we have power. And that's whether it's a manufacturing facility for chips, electronic chips, clean room technology, pharmaceuticals, solar panel manufacturers, whatever industry advanced manufacturing requires that. So the fact that this potential project has got power generation and able to and plan to produce excess power is highly critical for the future of this county and its economic viability. Fortunately, it has a data center tied to it. And I know there's a lot of concerns been expressed, and I think a lot of due diligence by county staff as well as our staff in the community has been put forward to address a lot of those issues. But it's all coming that a data center brings the dollars that will help pay for this extra power generation capability. It's not only the generation, it's also the ability to transmit that power to our region. With that said, I'm not an electrical engineer. I grew up on a farm, spent most of my time in chicken houses. One of the things we've done as a partnership is engaged a third-party consultant that's an electrical engineer. Is probably one of the most experienced individuals that I've been able to work with and come across that understands the entirety of this scope, both on the data center, but more importantly, the power generating side. And at that point that he comes up, I'll introduce him, but I don't know if it's how the roster goes down.
If he, go ahead.
If you want to go ahead and introduce him. Yeah, I'd like to introduce Ted McGarvin. He's with MGE 3 LLC Consultant, and I'll let him further introduce himself and give you a perspective on this project.
Commissioners, good to be with you tonight. Chairman, all of you. Yeah, I'm an electrical engineer. That's kind of my fault. I went to school at NC State and grew up in North Carolina and had a lot of experience. I actually co-opted with the electric co-ops in North Carolina EMC. That would go back to the early 80s. And I worked in my dad's business for a while till he got sick and got pushed out, so I started my own. And my client base essentially was, and by the way, I'm licensed as a professional engineer in North Carolina in a number of states, have been since 1989. Done a lot of expert witness work and a lot of design work. My chief client base was the electric co-ops and the munis, but also did work with Duke Energy. I owned part of a siting business, and we did a lot of work with Duke. I worked a lot out in eastern North Carolina. I mean, obviously, if you go to NC State University, you're going to know a little something about eastern North Carolina. So I learned a lot about that. But just let me kind of give you the, and I also have a lot of data center experience. I'm working right now with a group up in West Virginia that we're developing the largest data complex in the world right now. We're in the process of building a 3.5 gigawatt power plant. We have special legislation from the state to do this, and we're a long way down the road with getting that done. We've been very quiet about it. But I think one thing about these data center projects is you get guys out there that make these big announcements and then nothing comes through. And I think a lot of that is because they don't really assess the landscape too well as to what it looks like from a power perspective and things like that. For instance, we've already got an operating air permit. I'd say you look at all these other data centers that have attempted, first they attempted the grid, that didn't work. And they're starting to attempt their own power resources, and those permits can get them tied up for a while. We kind of figured that out a little bit. So with all that said, I want to talk a little bit about obviously data and power run together. I mean, the most of the data, when we had data centers, we talked about just nominal keeping data. We had a lot of power issues with that were really boiling up over the last 4 or 5 years. The data pretty much lives in Ashburn, Virginia right now, but the power crunch is forcing that out of Ashburn. In fact, our project is analogous to this one because we have a low latency, which is the time the fiber takes to transmit data over there to us is very low. It's similarly low here, so these are really good locations from that perspective. You also have a perspective of how this stuff comes on shore, basically around Norfolk and up through the coast of Virginia, and you're one of the guys that can offtake like we are. The guys I'm working with, you can offtake here right off the Atlantic Ocean. That's a big advantage. This part of northeastern North Carolina is in a power crunch, and it's been in a power crunch for a long time. This is not new in our area here. I mean, right now, we can talk about national energy policy all night, but we've made some decisions that maybe weren't that great, and they're causing the entire nation to be in a power crunch. Duke is looking at upgrading plants, but they're looking, that's a 4 or 5 year process. And that's probably not gonna help northeastern North Carolina a whole lot. Same for, Dominion. We're just a long way from anything out here. We're out here in eastern North Carolina, northeastern North Carolina in particular. We're at the end of the PJM RTO. We're at the end of the Dominion reach. We're at the end of Duke's reach out here. So I got to tell you, the only way we're going to do something out here is we're going to do it for ourselves in some form or fashion. So what we're looking at, and we've talked to the Piedmont Gas guys, and they're part of Duke Energy, and they're ready to commit to build about a 27-mile line to bolster what we already have out here. I think we've got enough gas capacity now, but we can't have enough gas capacity. That's the next thing I think you're going to see in power generation in the United States. We're about to enter the natural gas decade. You're probably hearing a lot about nuclear and SMRs and things like that, but I'll just tell you right now, that's not a thing. It just isn't. And one of the reasons it isn't is that SMRs take bomb-grade fuel to operate. I don't think it's going to be a good idea to have small modular reactors around here that have bomb-grade fuel in them, not unless we want to hire a battalion of Marines on every, to put on every one. So I just don't see it as practical. Duke doesn't see it as practical either. They talk about it, but it's not real. So it really comes down to natural gas. And the natural gas issue is going to be pipelines. And we're kind of starved for pipeline capacity throughout the state. We're very fortunate to already have some here and have Piedmont ready to build something out here. So the idea that we would put distributed generation either at a low megawatt level or a high megawatt level makes sense. It's also quite probable that we would work with these guys. These guys would work, and I would work with them to come to an agreement to work with North Carolina EMC and Electric Cities, which is big out here, and get some power resources over to the co-ops and to the cities out here, because they're really feeling the strain. I'm sure y'all here in Tarboro and Rocky Mount know all about the strain of power costs and what that's done to these to the Eastern Agency. You know, we're going to have to deal with that again, because right now the cost of power nationwide is going to skyrocket because we're starved for resources. So we're at a period we probably haven't seen this need for power in the United States since the end of World War II. That's kind of where we are again, and we're in a situation where we've got to rebuild this grid. And I'll say, tell you transmission. We're going to talk about natural gas pipelines, and we got to talk about electric transmission. Now, I took a look at PJM, which is the RTO that serves this area out here. Their regional transmission expansion plan, which I check that thing all the time, has virtually nothing out here, because there is nothing out here much to improve. They got some substation, and they're rebuilding a couple of lines up near Aurora and all that. But that's where there's industry. There's nothing here, and if we're going to do industry here, we're kind of going to have to fend for ourselves. And I think if I'm being honest with you guys, which I always would be, is what we're going to see. We're going to have to do a little politicking too with the co-ops and with electric cities and maybe with the legislature, and probably Duke Energy would actually be a friend to us here, I believe, because they don't serve this area. Piedmont is a competitor to what Dominion would do. I mean, Dominion has their own gas operation, so we're way better off working with them and having some competition in here than waiting on Dominion. I just don't see Dominion doing anything in here. They did some upgrades, basically maintenance upgrades over the last couple of years in this area, and they're finished for a while. It would take them, and just to build a new transmission line like they would have to do, to go through all the siting and issues with that, you're probably looking at 5 years, best case to do that. I've been through all that. So we're at a point that we've got to do something. We've got to do something for ourselves out here. And maybe we should have done it a long time ago, but we didn't, and now here we are. So with that, I'd invite questions from y'all. This is my area, and I'm prepared to answer questions. If I don't know it, I'll tell you I don't know. So any questions from you guys?
Well, if we don't have any, maybe from what we might hear from the rest of anybody that signed up, we'll have a questions for you, okay?
Okay, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Thank you. Good to hear you tonight.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Sam Russell?
Good evening. Appreciate y'all's time to come out tonight. My name is Sam Russell. I'm an insurance and bonds broker. I work for a company called Alliant. We're the largest privately held broker in the U.S. currently do about $103 billion of construction insurance a year specific to data center projects, with over 175 data center projects we've insured and bonded in the past 18 months. I went to University of South Carolina, studied risk management and finance, and have been in the insurance industry, both underwriting and on the brokerage side, for 10 years. Nature of my conversation tonight is to talk about surety bonds as it relates to these large projects. A surety bond is a third-party guarantee of a contract between two different parties. In this case, one of the parties is the developer, other party the municipality. A lot of the regulations that we're reading through and discussing tonight will get ultimately put into the contract between these two parties. What we'd like to offer, and what the developers offered as well, is to bond these contracts so that there's a third party holding both parties responsible for some of the representations made at the beginning of the project. That way, at completion or at any change, you know that there is a objective third party, which is a large and complicated insurance company. Believe me, they don't have any feelings. They read the contracts and they implement their will. We have talked to the developer about a few different types of bonds that we may recommend in this case. You have completion bonds, which is a developer provides this to the municipality, provided by the developer to the local government. Completion bonds guarantee that horizontal infrastructure, roads, utilities, and drainage are built according to approved permits and plans. They serve as financial assurance that public improvements will be completed even if the developer defaults. This helps municipalities mitigate risk and enforce development standards. Another type of bond that we may talk about here is a license and permit bond. The developer provides this bond to the municipality as well. Permit bonds ensure that developer complies with the terms and conditions of issued permits. They also cover any fines or penalties resulting from violations, offering a layer of accountability. These bonds are often required before work begins and help maintain regulatory compliance throughout the project lifestyle. And then the last kind of bond we may consider is a decommissioning bond. This is a developer bond provided to the municipality. Decommissioning bonds ensure that a developer will properly dismantle and restore the site at the end of its operational life. This is particularly important for projects with environmental or community impact, as it prevents abandoned infrastructure and any costly remediation. The purpose of these bonds is to ensure that the balance sheets of Edgecombe County and the developer are protected for any representations and operations agreements issued to the developer for the completion of their project. Any questions, let me know. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We might have some questions, okay?
Sure.
Next.
James Wren.
Good evening, good evening. My name is James Wren, 704 NC 97 East in Leggett. Coming for you tonight. I'm not an expert on data centers. I know it's been seen as a threat, environmental threat in communities, like it's voted down in Pitt County, in Apex. I listened to the presentation of Ms. Wilson for the Tarboro Town Council, which said this technology has been unproven. I don't know where a site like this is in North Carolina. I appreciate the effort to address these issues in the amendments. Clearly, the alternatives are worse than the first line of defense you have there. What we've heard tonight is some new information about power generation that I don't know. We had to absorb a lot of this information to be able to speak to it. I just know here in Edgecombe County, and I know we're looking for money, we're looking for income, and we know the experience what happened in the 90s with the trying to bring IBP Slaughterhouse to Kingsborough, and the community rallied together and stop that. We're a lot better off today in Edgecombe County because we don't have a hog slaughterhouse in Kingsborough. We had QVC, we had Corning. These are the kind of positive industries that we want. The data centers are a big question mark. We've heard a lot of things, new information tonight that we have to absorb, but I just, I don't know who else from the community is here to speak, but the community of Kingsborough and Edgecombe County need to be protected from industry that has environmental consequences to this county. So it need to be thought out, and a lot of this information need to be absorbed and critiqued. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody else to speak?
Yes, sir.
Well, we are considering tonight a text to our ordinance so that we can do data centers. We are not here tonight to approve a data center. But if we do approve it, that means that a data center could go there. Now, what I'm interested in, Mr. Peters, is the young man that just spoke from the insurer in terms of, is there anything that we could do if we approve this to ensure that that was a part of consideration?
You mean some specific insurance requirements, Mr. Chairman?
The bonding and all of those things that he spoke to. If we were to support this amendment to our text amendment, could we do that tonight?
Yes, sir. Well, as you know, Mr. Chairman, those bond requirements are not included in the proposed text amendment language.
And neither are they considered in our UDO
Right, yes, sir, for this use.
for this use.
So, any proposed data center, if this language as has been considered is approved, then there would be no way to require those additional bonds for M2 uses. It could, if there was a proposed data center in property that was going to require a conditional rezoning, then a condition for one of those bonds could be required if the applicant consented to it.
But I'm sitting here based on his presentation thinking that, and my other comments would be is that I think that I'm speaking for myself in terms of I think it is my intent to support it, and because I think we have done all of the due diligence that we can do as a board to ensure to protect the public interests and environmental issues of the Kingsborough site. We've been back and forth. We've required our staff. We've required other resources to get us that. It is our intent, regardless of what we put out there, to make sure that that site is protected. But I do think we also need to, we should not depend on our ordinance should be able, if we pass this, we will not be able to add those requirements.
You would not be able to require those in M2. There may be, as we've seen with solar farm applicants, those applicants are often willing to offer additional conditions that are not required, but you could not require those bonds in M2 because it's not in the ordinance.
Okay. So
If I could add, Mr.
Go right
Chairman,
ahead.
another area of control, if you will, that the board would have on that matter would not be just what you adopt here for the text amendment. It could also be at the sale of county-owned property. You could choose that you want to make that a condition, the sale of property owned by the county.
I think that satisfies my intent. Any other questions?
As a part of that, any land that's not zoned M2 now, most land, except for one parcel really, is M2. is owned by the county, so we have that control there. The other piece of that, if they were going through a conditional rezoning, we could add that
We
as a
could add-
condition of that conditional rezoning if the developer agreed to.
Okay, okay, because this is something certainly I think that should be required, okay? Before, I'm comfortable with the fact that it's our property, okay? Is there any other questions or anything from the board? Comments?
Could I ask one more thing of staff, and just for the public? I know we've read at Kingsborough, but could we just elaborate on some of the other projects that we've gone and seen and put eyes on to kind of see what, I think the big question that we've been asked a lot of is, where is this being
Right,
done
right.
elsewhere in the country?
Right.
And we've actually had staff go look at that.
Sure, and I'll ask Mike to come back to the podium, and he's got a few slides he'll share. And while he's on his way, I'll say, to your point, what we've seen across the nation, we'll call it the initial wave of data centers, and data centers have been around for a long time. Most of those that are existing now have essentially, you can come on up, Mike, essentially have plugged into the grid, right, where there's available electric capacity available, like was mentioned earlier. Northern Virginia's more data centers there than anywhere else in the world currently. There was electricity available, they plugged into the grid. Most of those opportunities have gone away. Now there is very limited electric capacity available to the tune that these data centers need. And so now the second wave is, as was mentioned before, of figuring out how they generate their own power. Because that second wave is relatively new, can't just ride around anywhere. You can ride around in North Carolina and find data centers, but you can't ride around and find one where there's a data center and they are creating their own power by burning natural gas. And so Mike is going to show you an instance where there is natural gas being used to generate electricity, not for a data center, and then also for an actual data center that has power generation on site in Memphis, Tennessee, that we had the opportunity to visit.
Johnny or Jason, if you can pull up that presentation.
While we're waiting for that, there will be also added to the, with no objections from the board, we're going to add to the agenda at the end of the business, consideration addition to our compensation plan, okay? Without any objections. Hearing none, that will be added to the agenda. Go right ahead.
Thanks, sir. So approximately, I think it was on maybe like Friday, October 17th or something, I made contact with North Carolina State University. I was told that they had power generation on site, and after talking to the young lady, she set up a tour of their facilities. They actually have two different facilities, and obviously these pictures are probably a little tough to see from the audience. But the first picture on the left is basically just their board where they monitor everything. The second picture, they actually have two facilities on campus, and both of these facilities are located directly on campus, and they're within earshot of dorms and or classrooms. The middle picture actually shows two turbines that produce power. Obviously, some of their power comes from the grid. Some of it, they produce their own power by way of gas. One of the turbine on the left was not functioning while I was there, but the one on the right was, and it was actually running when I took this picture. I'm not going to say it sounds like what it sounds with the air conditioning running right now, but there is a little bit of a noise to it, but not much more than what you just heard. The one on the right is I just took that as it's a single turbine that it wasn't operable while I was there. They were doing maintenance on it, but just to kind of show you the size of that turbine. From what I understand of it, the turbines themselves are not very loud. They don't produce much noise at all. It's what they power that produces the noise. Obviously at NC State, because they're powering, they're running chillers, cooling towers, they're running boilers, they're using some water recycling. All of these pumps, all of these mechanisms are going to produce noise. and obviously to produce air conditioning and heat for the schools and for the campus. Next slide, please. Oh, is it working? Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Oh, it does. So as Mr. Evans said, last Tuesday, Mr. Bob Pike, Mr. Evans, Commissioner Boswell, and myself took a quick day trip. I don't know if it was quick, but it was a day trip to Memphis, Tennessee, to visit what they call the XAI data center, or I think they could refer to it as Colossus One. It is a Elon Musk data center, and they actually use they do have their they do have power on site. They use power from the grid, but they also have power generation by natural gas, which is much larger, I think, than what we'll see around here. I may be wrong about that, but it was quite a trip and quite a facility. As you'll see up here, at approximately 200 foot. Now, again, this is much like I talked about earlier. This is not a 24-hour reading that I took. It was a 5 to 10, maybe 15-minute average that we took. From about 200 foot, the readings were about 68.7, and about 500 foot, it was around 66.2. And I believe around 2,500 foot, it was somewhere around about 57 to 58 decibels. And one thing I want to add about this facility is located just north of what I think is called a Nucor powering plant. Also, a intermodal rail system is just south of this parcel. And this is a 4-lane road that we were actually standing on. And on this 4-lane road, the truck traffic was very heavy, to the point that it was almost impossible to get a reading without a truck coming by. The intermodal was just full. They were running containers all day long. And also just north is I think, Bob, you described it as a power plant. Is that correct? Okay. We took decibel readings from, again, 200 foot, 500 foot. We also actually went up to, let me see if I can get this thing to work, yeah. We actually went up here. As we got to the north of it, you can actually see this barrier of woods, or a type of buffer. Once we got on the other side of that buffer, you could still see the facility, kind of a corner of it, but the sound was much less than what it was while we were near it or in front of it. Obviously it would be, but the trees served as quite a bit of buffer that we were not anticipating. And also just some pictures of the facility itself. Again, I'm not sure exactly what all is encompassed in this. We were hoping to have a tour of the facility. Obviously, it didn't work out where we were able to go inside of it and look around. That just didn't work out for us. But I think we were able to get close enough that we got to see, smell, and taste everything that we thought we could hear or see. This, again, is just, and actually this used to be an old Electrolux building. So as you can see here, that they revamped and remodeled. And so as I was talking about, they have grid power, which is this over here, but they also have power generation that is at the backside of it. And again, this is the photo that was shown earlier with decibels as it relates to Kingsburg. So those are, I think, between staff, in fact, I believe several commissioners have gone to Zebulon to visit the data center as well. Data centers themselves are not noise producing. They're actually fairly quiet. If they're pulling power from the grid, if you're standing beside it, you wouldn't even know it was anything but a building. It's when you get into these other things that you start to hear some of the noise. So as far as the data center itself, the few that I've visited, I've not heard any noise from them. Again, it's the power generation. It could be the cooling towers. It could be the chillers, whatever else, the recirculation of water. You're going to have some noise that comes off of those. So I just want to kind of give you a brief update of the things that we have done.
Any questions from Mike?
Any other questions? Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the board?
The lighting requirements that we discussed at our previous, they're still in this, correct?
Yes, sir, they are.
So just is downlighting with height restrictions on the
yes,
light and mitigate light pollution.
That's right, to minimize light pollution surrounding areas taken from other sections of the UDO.
And this is what is in here, is those additional things that we, even after we got it from planning board, we talked about.
Yes, sir.
My only other comment regarding the noise at the sight line, at the lines, is it's my understanding that acoustical engineers can engineer these projects to know what's going to emit beyond that barrier based on the knowledge that's there. And that acoustical engineer, that the specific group that it's kind of brought this up to fruition has explained that. So I feel like we could put in there in our ordinance to say it needs to be engineered to not exceed 60 dBs at the sight line, no matter what that is outside of the site, but they can engineer their sound barriers to say that it cannot exceed 60 within that. And then if you measures above that, that's ambient noise outside of it. But I think we can require that the site is engineered to not exceed that based on the barriers that are there.
So what proposing in the text amendment would be sound readings at the property line.
It has to be engineered to not exceed 60 dBs, 60 dBAs.
Or whatever limit you
Or
all
whatever
chose
limit
to.
we choose. I mean, yeah, I was just throwing 60 out there to throw a number out there. But I think you say, because if you say 50 at night, they're going to have to engineer it to 50 because it doesn't work. You're going to have to change your whole operation, basically. So I think we need to find a number that we're comfortable with. And if Kingsborough site's already reading 66, if we tell them to engineer at 60, they shouldn't be adding any more dBAs to the grid. I mean, they can't. There's not going to be any more sound that's already being produced from the highway that's there.
Also, one other point I want to note is that whatever the maximum limit that you all vote on tonight, if you pass this, there's provision in the recommended text amendment that says that reading is to be taken by a third-party independent, paid for by the client, but selected by the county, similar to what we do for stormwater management practices. So not just the word of the developer or their engineers, but a third party would have to verify whatever those limits are.
My fear with the third option, why I'm saying I think we should say let's have the site specific to data centers engineer to a standard. And I think the key word there is engineer to the standard, build to the standard. Is the standard for other industries in an industrial park that land is already zoned industrial is 70 dBA. So if we put a factory across the street and they are allowed to emit 70 dBA, the data center is then, it's de facto allowed to emit 70 dBA. Because the new sound readings are going to say, well, now the street is saying 70 dBA maybe. So it can only increase what the data center can emit. So I think this allows us to limit what data centers are, if that's the concern that we've heard from every single citizen pretty much that is opposing this, is sound. I think that's at least kind of where I'm coming from on that. I don't know if that makes sense.
I believe that we can sit here all night and we can try to mitigate sound. And we've got an industrial park there that's going to emit sound. And when it comes to what's in and out and what might be the highway or what's being emitted, we're going to have noise at Kingsborough. We have developed a site for industrial growth that's going to create some noise. And I believe that we have done our due diligence, and there will be buffers. We will be trying buffers. And even with what is there and what he is not sure as to where some of this sound is coming from. Okay. And I believe that what has been recommended to us by the planning board is reasonable at this time. We can restrict ourselves where we will have nothing at Kingsborough. Okay. And I'm prepared to make a motion that the application is consistent with the adopted policy guidance of UDO Tax Amendment 5-25 The Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners conclude that the application as presented is consistent with the Edgecombe County adopted policy guidance and is expressed in 2014 comprehensive plan based on the following reasons. One, it is consistent with the economic development policy. Number one, economic development goals. Do I need a motion just for that, or can I go
Mr.
ahead?
Chairman, I think we need to clarify what the final language is going to be.
Go
Planning board's
ahead.
recommendation was 50, so.
The planning board's company that was not
Could I get,
50, go ahead.
Our
It
IT
was
staff to
not
bring
50.
up the
Six-
previous
60 and 50.
slide deck.
60, it was 60.
50
And Durbin, if you don't mind coming back up and let's
I
walk
had
back
3
through
different
that.
ones.
60 and 50 at night.
So, starting from the first slide. So I believe if we go to the slide that talks about neighborhood meeting requirements, I want to make sure. Okay. So I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. That second bullet point there, and this was based on conversation you all had at your last
At the
meeting.
last meeting.
Yes, sir. That there would be a neighborhood meeting requirement
Right.
if it is not currently zoned. If they're going to ask a piece of property to be rezoned as M2, that's been consistent through the various versions of this. But the last change that you all asked to be made is that the neighborhood meeting be conducted after the application is submitted.
Right.
And no later than 10 days prior to the planning board meeting.
That's correct.
Okay. So that language would be in there. Next slide, setback and buffers, that I don't believe has changed. Next slide, height requirements, nothing regarding that has changed. The next slide, maximum noise levels. Right now, the published text amendment says that it's 60 during the day, hours of 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and 50 at night. We've talked about some other changes to that.
This is what staff talked about that, right? But this is what we sent back, what we sent back to the planning. This is what we did after the planning board, right?
Well, what you sent back, and Durbin, you correct me, what you sent back to the planning board was that, initially it said that if there's no dwelling next door or an approved dwelling, residential dwelling, that it did not have to go down to.
Well,
To
what was
50.
sent back to the planning board was for the lighting standards, and so this change was made after the last meeting, after the call to meeting.
Gotcha. So we need to determine, is this going to be your noise limit here?
That was one of the suggestions, was that it be changed.
Right.
For your consideration,
Right,
yes,
for our
sir.
consideration.
So we'll put a question mark on that right now. If you go to the next slide, that was just illustrating about sound. The next slide, utility, usage. The only change would be on the next slide. We're recommending, because of your conversation at your last meeting, we're recommending that the language say, in cases where the data center or crypto mining operation utilizes electricity in any amount. Before, we talked about if they're generating their own power, they essentially didn't have to get that attestation. But if they're using in any amount from a public electric service provider, including for uses and/or activities incidental to the data center itself, the following standards shall apply. So even if they're not using the power to generate their data center, but they need that power for redundancy, for other, whatever it might be, that they would still have to get that attestation. So it sounds like everybody's good to include that. The next one, utility usage, that has been consistent. And then we get to the staff recommendations, and we'll show those again. We showed you all of the other areas in the current UDO where it talks about a noise limit, and that being 70 decibels, and for those uses, no more than 100 feet.
But
Others,
they're already in there.
that's already in
They're
there,
already
yes, sir. So, as it stands right now, if somebody,
They're not for our consideration.
no, sir, just
Okay.
showing you as a comparison to other areas in the, yes, sir. If you go to the next slide, and this is wind energy conversion, currently in the ordinance, but that maximum limit is 55 decibels.
Those are things that right now that we were not considering doing anything because of what the General Assembly might be doing. But for what was the present new deal, only thing we were dealing with is what we can do with what we're adding, right?
Yes, sir. I think you're just presenting them for
Okay.
context.
And so then if you go to the next slide, this is the map you've seen already. The next slide is showing these alternative considerations. Alternative consideration be to take that limit from 60 to 70 during the day and from 50 to 55 at night is an option. The next one is adding back the language from the previous draft that addresses projects that did not border a lot within an existing or approved residential dwelling unit to have a noise limit measured at proper line of 70 decibels. As we stand right now, the latest discussion you had was that there be no difference, that it be 60 day and 50 at night unless you make these other changes. And the third option would be adding that language there where you would consider what existing sound levels are and that a new project coming in would not exceed established existing levels. So that seems to be this, it seems like you've agreed to all of the other changes. The last point here is to decide at what noise levels that you want to put in this ordinance if you adopt it tonight.
I don't think that 50 gonna work at night. I'm looking at 70 and 60.
And I think it's appropriate if we say resident, I mean, there's a 500-foot barrier. If we say residence is a different, if you're adjacent to a residence, then there's a different requirement. I think that's appropriate.
Mr. Chairman, you entertain a motion?
Please.
I move we accept the text amendment as presented and include the three alternative solutions to the amendment.
I think it has to be one, has to be one or the other.
Okay.
Right.
Yes, sir.
I think my motion would be that we approve the text amendment as presented with all other changes and that the property be engineered to not exceed 60 dBA at the property line, no matter location,
Day or night,
day or night.
whether there's a residential dwelling next to it.
Because you have residential dwelling, you already have a 500-foot buffer beyond that as well. So you're moving it from 100 to 500, and then it can't exceed, engineered to exceed 60 right at the property line.
Hey, Mr. Thorne, the information, application, read this in, okay? Only the application consistent with adopted policy guidelines. And,
It's not about an application, I thought.
but I
it's just
think this
about-
is a way.
It's
this
the
is-
county's
this-
application
this
for
is-
it.
Oh, okay.
This is the, we, the county, have made an application
Yes.
Oh, okay.
for that change, so read that in and state what you just stated.
The Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners concludes that the application as presented is consistent with Edgecombe County's adopted policy guidance as expressed in the 2014 comprehensive plan based on the following reasons. It is consistent with economic development policy number 1, economic development goals. Application is reasonable. The application, Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners concludes that the application as presented is reasonable and is in the public interest of the following reasons. Enhance economic growth potential of Edgecombe County with a 60 dBA engineered sound barrier at the property line.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Questions? Do you have what we stated?
Yes, sir.
You got it, Madam Clerk? Okay. You got an understanding of it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. Hearing none. Unanimous vote. That was something else that we needed to do. Yes, yeah, okay. At this time, I'd like to also appoint Mr. Woodley to the Personnel Committee, okay? Okay. Public hearing number 2 is to consider changes to the animal service ordinance. The public hearing is called to order. Mr. Peters, would you please read the public notice?
Yes, sir. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held on Monday, November 3rd, 2025, at 6 o'clock p.m. in the Jonathan Felton Commissioners Room on the second floor of the County Administration Building located at 201 St. Andrews Street, Tarboro, North Carolina. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider and act on proposed amendments in the following portions of Chapter 4, Article 2 of the County Ordinances, Section 4-33, Definitions, and Section 4-41, Mistreatment of Animals Unlawful. A copy of the proposed amendments is on display on the county's website at www.edgecombecountync.gov. Interested parties may also request a copy of the proposed changes by calling 252-641-7834. Interested parties are encouraged to attend and make their views known. Those who wish to speak during the public hearing must sign in to speak before the public hearing is called to order. Comments may also be submitted in writing before the meeting by email sent to publiccomments@edgecombco.com or by mail addressed to Eric Evans, County Manager, P.O. Box 10, Tarboro, North Carolina 27886. Emailed or mailed comments received by 5 o'clock p.m. on Friday, October 31st, 2025 will be read at the Board of Commissioners meeting during the public hearing. Anyone with a physical limitation or language barrier that will need special accommodations at the public hearing should call 252-641-7834 at least 48 hours prior to the meeting. Tammy Faison, Clerk to the Board.
Mr. Evans?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. As Mr. Attorney mentioned, we have these recommended changes to our Animal Services Ordinance. The Animal Services Advisory Council is recommending additional changes to the Animal Services Ordinance. The changes they recommend to Chapter 4, Animals, Article 2, Animal Services, would restrict the tethering of dogs, and that recommended language is attached. The Advisory Council voted unanimously to recommend these changes, which are intended to improve public safety, reduce unwanted litters, provide increased safety and humane treatment, and reduce accidental choking of dogs being tethered unattended. The Council also recommends that the timeline for the compliance to be as follows: 1 year of education and outreach from the date of approval of the ordinance changes. After the initial year, there's to be 6 months of written warnings. And third, at the end of the 6-month warning period, there will be full enforcement would begin. I recommend that you call for the public hearing in order to receive input on this matter.
At this time, we will call for public comments. Anybody to speak?
Mr. Jim Wren?
Okay, you didn't want, not for the, okay. Anybody else?
I have a Roy. His last name is illegible.
Is there anybody here that signed up to speak?
I think it might be public.
Anybody else? And it's a call for a public hearing, isn't it? Like when they said, what was it, to call a public hearing? What was it? Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
No, it would be to approve the ordinance changes. This is the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
Is there a motion to approve the ordinance change?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved.
Thank you.
At this time, we have public petitions. Please call for your first person.
Jim Wren.
Good evening again, James Wren, 704 NC 97 Eastern Leggett. I'm also the Vice President of Phoenix Historical Society, African American History of Edgecombe County, and we thank you for all your support. I want to announce to you that this coming Saturday, at November 8th, at 11 o'clock here in the Carmen Auditorium in this building, we'll have our annual educational program. Topic is the Patillo legacy in North Carolina, dealing with 4 generations of Walter Patillos, including 2 who served as principal of the school here in Tarboro, the Patillo School. And the speaker will be Dr. Omar Ali of UNC Greensboro, professor of African American and African American Studies at UNC Greensboro, and we invite y'all to come out and learn about the Patillos, 4 generations of Walter Patillos. Thank you.
I would suggest that I usually try to make they're very educational, okay, in terms of this history. If anybody can go, including those in the public, I would suggest that you attend. I usually try to make every one of them. Thank you. Is there any-
Mr. Roy Heifel?
I'm going to reserve for when my agenda item comes up, if that's okay.
With no objections? We'll call you if we need you, okay? Okay, if we need you, okay? Might not need you, all right?
I just need some clarity.
Hold it, Mr. Stanton. You have not signed up?
Yeah, I did.
You signed up, I'm sorry. Okay, go
I
ahead.
wouldn't have came up.
Okay, okay.
No, I just need some clarity. So from here on, we're going to start signing up for the public comments?
We've been signing up for the last 3 months.
Well, I didn't sign up last month.
Well,
we talked about it, but I didn't know. Is
Yeah,
that in the minutes and
That's, yeah.
everything? I just want to make sure because I didn't.
We are, right.
Because I talked about it last time I was up here.
We sign up, I give everybody an opportunity even before we open our meetings.
Mhm.
We signing up, right to sign.
So it'll be outside the door. from here on.
It's outside,
That's all.
okay, and we give.
I've been seeing that, but I thought for the public hearings on the.
No, it's for all public hearings. We've just started that. And the reason for that, Mr. Zance, is you need to know what you're gonna say before you come, rather than us have people sit out here and you have to stay all night, because they hear other things that people are saying and they keep coming up, okay? So that's just kinda to put some order to it, okay? Okay. Is there anybody else?
No, sir.
Hearing none, we'll move on to other business. Budget amendments, Ms. Evans.
You have.
At this time, how the board, you need a recess? We can keep moving?
Go, keep going.
Go ahead, move on, okay.
You have in your agenda packet includes the 2 budget amendments, the first 2 that require your approval. The first one is appropriating funds received from an insurance claim in the health department. The second one is we're moving some funds between budget lines. This is for Braswell Memorial Library in Rocky Mount. As you know, we share in the operational costs for that library with the city of Rocky Mount and Nash County. And now that we're catching up to what the final budget approvals for Rocky Mount and Nash County, and based on the formula, there's an additional $7,916 is the county share. And so no additional funding out of fund balance, moving that out of another line. Those are the 2. Happy to answer any questions that you might have on those or any others, but I recommend that you approve budget amendments 1 and 2.
Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Okay.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, it is approved. Next, Ms. Evans.
Next, you have before you consideration of resolution for Operation Green Light in support of veterans. I'd like to invite Ms. Sherry Johnson, our Veteran Services Director, to the podium, who will present this resolution to you.
Good evening.
For the Edgecombe County resolution for Operation Green Light in support of veterans. Whereas the residents of Edgecombe County have great respect, admiration, and utmost gratitude of all the men and women who have selflessly served our country and this community in the armed forces. Whereas the contributions and sacrifices of men and women who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedom and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. Whereas Edgecombe County seeks to honor these individuals who have paid the high price of freedom by placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. Whereas veterans continue to serve our community in American Legions, Veterans of Foreign Wars, religious groups, civil service, and functioning as county veteran service officers in 29 states to help fellow former service members access more than $52 billion in federal health, disability, and compensation benefits throughout the year. Whereas approximately 200,000 veterans service members transition to civilian communities annually, and an estimated 20% increase of service members will transition to civilian life in the near future. Whereas studies indicate that 42 to 72% of service members experience high levels of stress during transition from the military to civilian life. Whereas active military service members transitioning from military service are at high risk for suicide during their first year after military service. Whereas the National Association of Counties encourages all parishes and boroughs to recognize Operation Green Light for veterans. Whereas the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners appreciates the sacrifices of our United States military and personnel and believes specific recognition should be granted. Now therefore it be resolved with designation as the green light for Veterans County, the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners hereby declares November the 4th through the 11th, 2025, a time to salute and honor the service and sacrifice of our men and women in uniform transitioning from active service. Be it further resolved that in observance of Operation Green Light, a green light will be displayed at the Edgecombe County Administrative Building for the entire month of November in honor of veterans of Edgecombe County and nationwide. And it be further resolved that in observance of Operation Green Light, Edgecombe County encourages citizens' patriotic tradition to recognize the importance of honoring all those who made immeasurable sacrifices to preserve freedom by displaying a green light in the window of their place of business or residence from November 4th through the 11th, 2025, this third day of November 2025. Signed, Commissioner Wiggins, Board Chair.
Motion? Question? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recognize Ms. Johnson as not only our Veteran Service Director, but she herself is a veteran. Does a
Okay.
fantastic job in that role.
Okay.
Also, would invite you commissioners to join us. We're having a luncheon on the 10th, Monday the 10th, for our veterans, staff members who are veterans, at 12 p.m. in the Carmen Auditorium. You're welcome to join us.
Thank you. Next, moving on. Next.
Next, you have on your agenda approval of projects for School Capital Reserve Fund. As you are aware, a portion of the county's sales tax revenue, specifically under Articles 40 and 42, is designated for school capital purposes. After the annual school debt service obligations and recurring capital outlays are funded, any remaining balance is transferred to our school capital fund. Per the understanding between the Board of Commissioners and Edgecombe County Board of Education, proposed uses of these funds are to be submitted to the Board of Commissioners for review and approval prior to expenditure. Dr. Andrew Bryan, the Superintendent of the School System, has submitted the attached list of proposed capital projects for our consideration. I recommend that you approve the proposed list of school capital projects as presented.
Motion?
So moved. Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Next.
Item D on your agenda is regarding a request to waive our tipping fees. As you'll recall, the board approved an amendment to the county solid waste management ordinance to establish waivers for solid waste tipping fees. The intent of the amendment was to promote community welfare and environmental responsibility while maintaining accountability for illegal dumping. Under the new ordinance, solid waste tipping fees may be waived in specific cases, including work performed by qualified nonprofit organizations that benefit the community, cleanup efforts related to disaster recovery, county-sponsored projects or events, and cleanup of illegal dumping sites provided the applicant has not been identified as a responsible party in the illegal dumping activity. The county received a request from the developers of the property located at 3003 North Main Street, formerly owned by the county. The developers report that since acquiring the property, they discovered that illegal dumping had occurred on the site prior to their ownership. The debris includes general solid waste and construction materials that were not placed there by the new owners. Therefore, they request that the board waive tipping fees associated with the cleanup and proper disposal of the waste. The request includes documentation and photographs verifying the illegal dumping activity and confirmation that materials were present before the property's purchase. Staff visited the site and we agree that this debris would have been dumped long before the sale of the property. I recommend that you approve the waiver of tipping fees for any of the cleanup for the illegal dumping at 3003 North Main Street that can be accepted at our C&D landfill. And as you've noticed, we have Mr. Roy Heichel, who's current our owner of the property, here tonight if you have questions for him.
Now, you can speak if you want to. I believe we're going to prove this, okay? Okay. Okay.
I would make a motion to approve it.
Second. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Normally, when the county manager requests, if you speak, we got too many questions for you, okay? Next.
I will note the board would be interested that they are moving forward with the project. We're happy about that. They're doing it in phases. Part of it includes applying for registering to the buildings on the site on the National Historic Registry, which would open them up some historic tax credits. They have submitted plans to the town of Tarboro for phase one, which will be what was the main health department building. I think those plans are close to being approved.
Yes, sir.
And they've already done some asbestos mitigation work and other pre-development work out there, so I think we'll be seeing things move out there.
If you want to give an additional update, you can.
Stole my thunder, Mr. Evans. Roy Heichel, thank you
Okay.
very much for the invite this evening. We are making very good progress. Our plans, the site plans and building plans are with the town of Tarboro right now. Catherine Grimm and her department are reviewing them. I really hope by the end of November, we will have permits issued for building one of the 4 buildings. We've already gotten the asbestos removed, so demolition after that, and then the renovation process will begin. We hope that by May, June, July of next year, we'll have 17 units available in building 1, and we'll be starting to make them available to those residents of the county and town that would wish to live there. So we're very excited, and thank you very much for the waiving of tipping fees.
Well, looks like we made a good choice in getting a new landlord, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank
So
you.
far.
So far.
Okay.
I'll keep it up.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you so much. Moving on, Ms. Evans.
Next, you have in your agenda packet regarding the program that's called the CPACE program. I'd like to invite Ms. Natalie Best to the podium, and she's going to give you an overview of what that is and what we're asking for of you tonight.
Good evening.
Good evening.
CPACE stands for Commercial Property Access Clean Energy and is a financing tool that allows owners of commercial properties to finance energy efficiency, renewable energy, and resiliency upgrades by making special long-term assessments that are repaid alongside property taxes. The use of a CPACE program creates an additional financing for mechanism for property owners to use private funds to finance improvements to their eligible property, therefore driving economic development by creating a diversity of jobs in the resilience and clean energy sectors of the economy. The assessment requires minimal upfront cost and provides a more accessible financial mechanism to fund improvements that will increase the tax value of the affected properties at minimal administrative costs to local governments. CPACE improvements allow property owners to save on their utility bills because the improvements lead to energy or utility savings and will result in improved indoor air quality or increased resilience, which will increase the ability of the communities and local governments to respond to natural disasters and improve public health. The program allows owners of qualifying commercial property to obtain long-term financing from private capital providers for certain qualifying improvements up to 35% of the value of the property. The qualifying improvements include energy efficiency, renewable energy, resiliency, and water conservation, as well as improvements made to address safe drinking water. Similar programs are active in over 36 states and have attracted more than $7 billion in private investment for thousands of properties. Counties and cities in North Carolina may participate in the statewide CPACE program to support commercial, industrial, agricultural, and multifamily property owners with access to financing for efficient and resilient building improvements. Joining the statewide program does not expose a local government to any financial or legal liability. private capital providers, and the statewide administrator, the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, will assist interested commercial owners to apply for CPACE funding. Local governments that join the program will be reimbursed for actual and reasonable costs associated with executing documents related to the assessments. And to cover these costs, EDP&C will collect a $500 administration fee for approved projects at the time of closing. Except for executing documents necessary for financing, there is no other administrative involvement by local governments. To make the program available in Edgecombe County, the board must first adopt a resolution indicating our intent to participate. Then we will hold a public hearing to offer citizens the opportunity to make their views known about our intent to participate. Following that public hearing, a final resolution to participate will be presented for your consideration. Therefore, I recommend that you adopt the enclosed resolution of intent to participate in the CPACE program and to call for a public hearing to be held at your December 1st, 2025 meeting.
Can I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Second? Questions? All in favor, go right ahead.
It seems like, is this the first time this has come before us? Because I don't recall this.
It
I believe
is.
so, yes.
It's a fairly new program.
Any other questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. Now there's a motion to call for a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it's so called. Will this help you? Will this program help you? Well, you see who to talk to? Okay, okay. Next.
Next is a resolution regarding support of a statewide flash flood action committee. In August of this year, 2 individuals tragically lost their lives in the town of Spring Hope, located in Nash County, after being caught in their vehicle during a flash flood. This devastating event prompted the Nash County Board of Commissioners to pass a resolution calling for the creation of a statewide flash flood action committee. Following that action, Chairman Wiggins was invited to meet with officials from Nash County to discuss their resolution and its purpose. The goal of the committee would be to strengthen coordination between local, state, and federal partners to improve data sharing, early warning systems, drainage infrastructure, and public education related to flash flooding events. Given Edgecombe County's own history of recurring flooding events, particularly in low-lying areas along the Tar River, our creeks, and other tributaries, Chairman Wiggins believes, and I agree, that our formal support of this statewide initiative should be given. I recommend that you approve the resolution of support for the statewide Flash Flood Action Committee as presented.
Motion? Second? Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none, the resolution is approved. Next, Ms. Evans.
You have bad debt write-off presented to you from the Health Department per our policy. This is debt that's been uncollected over a period of time. If the client does present back at the Health Department, the account will become active again. Otherwise, we recommend that for the 2 periods shown to you, which is a total of $1,069.69, debt be written off for the Health Department.
Motion?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none, it is approved. Next.
You also have before you a recommendation for fee changes, in particular two vaccination fees for the Health Department. One is for a hepatitis B vaccine, one is for meningitis. You'll see it was recommending increasing based on the increased cost of the vaccine itself. For the Hep B vaccine is going from $79.82, and for the other is going from $219 to $240. These recommended changes have been recommended by vote of our Human Services Board as well.
Motion?
Motion.
Second? Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none, it is approved. Next, Mr. Evans.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the board considering adopting a resolution to recognize November as Native American Heritage Month. I would like to have the honor of reading this resolution as I could, representing the 8 tribes here in North Carolina, including my tribe, which is the Hallawasapona tribe in Hollister. I'd like to read
Go
the
right ahead.
resolution.
Go
if
right
I
ahead.
could. Proposed for you tonight is a resolution that states, whereas the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners acknowledges the rich and diverse cultural heritage that has significantly shaped our county, and whereas North Carolina is home to one of the largest Native American populations in the United States, with historical roots stretching back thousands of years, and boasts the highest Native American population east of the Mississippi River. And whereas Edgecombe County has deep connections to Native American history, once being home to several indigenous tribes, particularly the Tuscarora Nation, whose presence remains an integral part of our shared heritage. And whereas Native Americans have made and continue to make meaningful contributions to the social, economic, cultural, and political life of our county, state, and nation. And whereas the month of November has been nationally designated as Native American Heritage Month, providing an opportunity to recognize, honor, and celebrate the rich cultural traditions, contributions, and history of Native American peoples. And whereas it is vital to foster awareness, appreciation, and understanding of the unique heritage, traditions, and ongoing challenges faced by Native Americans across the United States and indigenous people globally. Now therefore be it resolved that the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners officially recognizes the month of November as Native American Heritage Month in Edgecombe County, North Carolina, and encourages all residents to join in celebrating and learning more about the invaluable contributions of Native American communities to our society. I'd like to add a footnote, if I could, that I am one of 2 county managers across the state of Native American heritage, and proud to represent.
Okay, I'm gonna let you make the motion, which is mine. How would you make the motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, that is my motion, okay. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Okay, next.
Thank you to the board. Next, you have consideration of approval of outside agency discretionary funding. In this current fiscal year, $200,000 was included for the consideration of funding to outside agencies with projects and programs that align with our Getting Off the List initiative. A request for proposals was published, and we received 24 applications for a total request of $519,710. I convened a committee of 5 team members, and we reviewed the applications. The committee ranked these applications based on alignment with the Getting Off the List focus areas, viability and readiness, cost effectiveness and return on investment, sustainability, community support, and partnerships. Based on the collective ranking of the committee, attached are the list of 10 projects recommended for discretionary funding. I will note that those 10 organizations are the Boys and Girls Club, the Down East Partnership for Children, United Community Ministries, the Strategic Twin Counties Education Partnership, also known as STEP, Turning Point Workforce Development Board, the United Way of Tar River Region, Rural Opportunity Institute, Tri-County Industries, Hill Family Farm Education Center, and the Carolinas Family Medical Center. I will note that as you see there on your sheet, they are ranked in order of the points that they received. Carolina Family Medical Center requested a total of $25,000, but based on funding available, recommending that they receive $5,000. I will verify with them that they would still be able to do some of the activities that they proposed in what they submitted. But my recommendation is that you approve as presented.
Well, don't we, I believe that we need a motion to excuse.
Yes, yes, sir.
Excuse, Mr. Webb and Ms. Harris.
I believe we have, those are the 2 board members. If you serve on any of these boards that are recommended for funding.
Is anybody serving?
Kanita.
Huh?
They're in partnership.
Kanita's not up
With
here.
Kanita.
They're
No,
not one of the boards.
Kanita's not ready.
I mean, that Carolina Family,
You on that, Carolina family?
no. They're
There's several on here
partnering.
that I need.
Okay, okay.
But that doesn't count.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
Is-
mine's the Boys and Girls Club.
Right, is there a motion to excuse, Ms.
Mr.
Harris?
Thorne as well.
You, and Mr. Thorne?
Yeah, I have business relationship with several of these nonprofits by the nature of my job, so probably best to recuse myself.
Well, we can't recuse, but no more than 3, do we can't prove it, okay? Okay, is that motion to excuse, Mr. Thorne, Ms. Harris, and Mr. Webb? Second, I second. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote saying aye.
Aye.
You are excused. There's a motion to approve those that are recommended. Chair makes the motion.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
Raise your hands, please. All in favor? So we do have 4, let it show. Okay? Okay. Okay. Now, where are we now? Okay.
Appointments.
Appointments, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, you mentioned earlier adding an agenda item.
Yes, that's right, okay. We're adding an agenda item, the consideration of additional compensation to our compensation plan. The sheriff has requested a compensation change. Would you please share for our chief, okay?
Good evening.
Good.
On behalf of the Sheriff Atkinson that's not present because he's at the Sheriff Association, I'm Chief Deputy Williams with the Edgecombe County Sheriff Office. I just want to thank y'all for letting me speak this afternoon. As you know, Miss Linda Powell is about to retire. Her last day is actually December 10th. None of you are busy. Thursday on the 6th, she has a walkthrough at our Sheriff Office if you have time from 12 to 2. But her last day will be November the 10th. We set out knowing that this was coming, so we set out to find her replacement. Well, it's kind of hard to replace Miss Linda when she holds many hats. She was also not only our financial person, she was our IT person too. So we're gonna miss her a lot. We did try to prepare for this with the help of Miss Linda Barfield, knowing that this financial person is gonna work close hand with her and her staff. We put this out to the public and to everyone on September 9th with a deadline of September 26th. We had 17 total applications. After the backgrounds was done, there were 6 interviews done by the board. There was a board held, excluding the sheriff and anyone else, with Ms. Barfield, myself, Major Muse, and our auxiliary deputy, Steve Wordsworth. After doing this board, it was a unanimous decision that we have a female by the name of Melissa.
Hold your name. We don't need to know that. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
We
And
don't.
after going through this process, the sheriff wanted to see how everything else went. We showed him what happened. After going back to the sheriff, he saw the scale, and he wanted to know, as I come before you tonight, to raise the classifications to 2 pay grades.
What is the pay grade of that now, Mr. Evans?
The pay grade now is grade 6.
And I believe that in my conversation with you, that we do have two other staff classifications.
Yeah, to clarify what this is, there are department level finance officer positions. Currently, we have one in social services, one at the health department. Those are large departments. Ms. Linda Powell was serving in pretty much a similar role, just not with that title. And so the idea was that this new position be classified as a department level position, which is at a grade 6. The maximum pay currently for that position is $63,800. Our policy does not allow us to pay someone outside of a given range.
Any questions from the board?
So what we had to do about that?
We've got to change the classification of of that particular pay classification. And my motion would be to change all 3, not just the sheriff's request, to change the classification, to raise the classification of that pay grade to a pay grade 8. That would be my motion.
I second.
To clarify, how many pay grades are we?
Whatever,
To
how
grade
many
8.
you have in our pay class.
To
All
go from
pay
grade
grades.
6 to grade 8.
All of that, in that particular, to that, whatever that request has been made, to that finance position? That's the finance position, the finance.
Currently, it's a grade 6. It sounds like the request is to increase it 2 grades to a grade 8.
To grade 8, and that would be the other positions that you said we had 3?
They're all at a grade 6 now.
I said we changed, my request would be to change all 3. My motion would be to change all 3 pay grades.
Mr. Chairman, could I, if I could, not certainly your motion, but just to clean up, if you're going to make that move, to clean up that sum. Right now, as I mentioned, we currently, if you had a copy, I'm looking at it now, at a grade 6, what's What we have here is a social services finance officer. We have a health department finance officer. We're essentially using that grade for this position. If you're gonna make a change, I would recommend that we change that to a department level finance officer, and that be one position that be used in the departments. So that would be a change I would ask you to consider while you're making this change.
That's my motion. Okay.
So, but it would still only be those 3 positions.
Currently, yes.
That is my motion. Okay.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Questions?
Do we have monies for this? That's why I don't know, any money in the pockets.
Well, we have a salary budget for each of these departments, and we'd have to look to see what's available to make these moves. I mean, they can't exceed those salary limits salary budgets unless we make a budget amendment. So using some of these funds could affect the ability to fill other positions.
We move money
Can I
every
make a
month.
comment on this, on that?
Just want to make sure.
The sheriff has salary budget on their own, and in conversation with him, he has expressed that there is salary within his, but he was restricted by the grade in what he could offer. So within his budget, he can reallocate funds in his salary line items already budgeted to the sheriff's office to accommodate that, I think, correct?
He has a salary line that has a certain amount in it now.
And in my conversation, he said that there's enough room in that to get the pay that this person would require to come work. So it wouldn't necessarily mean any more funding from the sheriff's office, any more funding to the sheriff's office, to a salary line item to fund this.
And finance is something we don't want to play with. We've been in a good spot. Leonard's helped us get off the list. We want to stay off that financial list. Sheriff's Department has a lot of stuff going on, with the jail and everything else. And now new animal shelter. We need to make sure we have somebody in place that knows what they're doing with finances. And Linda's gonna help them. She's gonna train them to make sure they're doing it just right. I think it's important enough, I think, that we need to do this.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, let me know by voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none.
Thank you.
Appointments, you have before you, reappointments and appointments. Ms. Regina Mosley, North Carolina Cooperative Extension, Sue Howard, Library, Bernice Howard, at-large rep, Lorraine Dickens, at-large rep, Curtis Knight, at-large rep. Is there a motion to approve these appointments and reappointments?
So moved. Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, they are approved. Author list and releases for review and approval. Anything to be brought to our attention, Mr. Evans?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman. Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Contracts for review and approval, Mr. Evans, anything to be brought to the board's attention?
I would ask if you consider adding one contract. You have 2 contract amendments before you. Would ask if you would consider adding a contract for exhibits. This is a contract for equipment and furniture replacement at the Sheriff's 911 call center. This will be paid for by E911 funds that we receive from the state. You'll see the total amount of the contract is $131,880.85. This did go through proper bidding or procurement process, so we ask if you consider adding that. The other 2, Prime Health Services Amendment number 3, this will be increasing the not-to-exceed limit. Currently, there is funds budgeted for that. Kimball's Food by Design is to extend the existing contract for an additional 4 years. This is a service that's provided at the detention center. It's not a cost-based contract, but it is a revenue-generating contract where a percentage of the fee collected by the service for the inmates comes to the county. So this amendment would extend that contract under existing terms for another 4 years. I recommend that you approve those 2 amendments in that one contract.
Motion.
So moved.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Down to department report. Any questions on the water and sewer update? We normally hear from our finance officer, Ms. Evans.
Yes, sir. I'd like to call up Ms. Barfield to give you our monthly financial summary.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
So tonight I thought I'd take a little bit more time than usual, but I'll try to go through it as quickly as possible. Just kind of wanted to go back over, thought it was important, given the state of things, to just go back over the report, make sure that as you're looking at the numbers, you know what the numbers are representing, which is kind of, hard to do if you're just sitting there looking at the report. So in terms, we'll start with the revenues. In terms of tax collections, what you're looking at, the 21% collected is representing about 2 months of activity. So we expect the bulk of the property tax revenue to come in between November and January. So I think at the 21%, we're pretty much where we would expect to be with 2 months worth of activity. Sales tax, that's, our next biggest item. What you're seeing here is actually the very first month that we have recorded sales tax for this fiscal year. It represents July sales. So as you can see, with only 1 month in, 1 month's worth of activity, we'll have to wait and see over the next few months how all the over economic conditions are going to play out, including the federal shutdown. We'll have to wait to see how that will affect consumer spending. But as for now, it looks like, I would say right off the gate, we probably started off strong in terms of the actual amount of the collections. Did want to remind you that our sales tax is broken up into articles. I know Mr. Evans has talked with you about that before, and I've heard the board speak about it. But just to remind you, Articles 40, 42, and 45 are statewide pooled taxes. So that means if North Carolina economy is doing well, we do well. We get a better share. And likewise, if it's slow, we see a lot lower allocation. Articles 39 and 46 will depend on Edgecombe's own sales. So if those go down, that's just a representation of our local consumer activity. So I just wanted to remind you that of those articles, some are statewide and give us an indication of how we do there statewide, and then some just represent how we're doing locally. And just something for you to think about as you're looking at sales tax and remembering that they're coming from several different places. And now most of the statewide pool taxes we do share with municipalities. So just give you that little bit of information. Last month I reported, and I'm sure you've heard about the 3% reduction in Medicaid reimbursement. I did take a look at EMS revenues, which you will see in the category here under sales, service, and fees. They are tracking close to their budget right now. It just went into effect October 1st, so we'll continue to monitor to see what that 3% reduction will do in terms of our EMS revenues. Skipping down to the health revenues, it's based on reimbursement through September expenditures. That means we've been reimbursed for about 3 months. The county is trending to pay about 1/3 locally, which is our budgeted share. I'd say now they might be a little behind pace, but not in a way that suggests that there's any type of problem. As with EMS revenues, we'll continue to monitor the impact of that 3% reduction on our local budgeted share, since that reduced state reimbursement will likely cause an increase in our local share. What you're seeing with the DSS and the 5% collections really just represents July reimbursement, so that's really just 1 month. Their expenditures are close to last year at this point, so their spending seems pretty flat compared to this time last year. And so far, we're on track for the county's budgeted share to remain around 37%, which what it was around at budget time when we completed the ordinance. In terms of spending across the county, departments have spent roughly 1/4 of their budget, with public safety trending a little bit higher. I'd still say for now that's pretty consistent for 4 months of activity. But that's all I have for the general funds. On the solid waste fund, this report reflects about 3 months of revenues and about 4 months of expenses. As you know, they're on a separate system than we are, so the recording is about a month behind. The fee collections are running slightly behind what's needed for the program to fully cover its own cost. Nothing that we've not seen in prior years, and we are also have a county budgeted share in case those expenses have overruns compared to the revenues that are in. But for now, I'd still call the solid waste. For now, I'd still say all of that was within budget. The water and sewer report shows about 3 months of billing and 4 months of expenses, which is normal for how that fund runs. Revenues and spending look consistent with normal operations at this point, and the funds appear to be covering its costs without any issues. So for now, that's what I have in terms of the report. I'll be happy to take any questions, and then if it's okay, I'd like to give you an audit update after that.
Any questions? Go ahead.
So, got some news on the audit front. I did talk with the auditors today. They do expect to provide us a draft of the financial statements later this week. They have indicated that they will go ahead and present the financial statements. Once they send it to us, we have to review it. We have to concur that the information is correct. Once we get all that done, then we can get with Mr. Evans and talk about a date that we could present to the auditors could come and present. However, there is another situation that's brewing. I'm not sure if you've heard about it, but due to the federal government shutdown, the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, has not yet released the final audit guidance for the federal funds. And we're not sure they will until the shutdown is lifted. And this does affect really all counties, large cities, and any municipality receiving $750,000 or more in federal funds. This is mainly due to compliance. This guidance is issued federal guidance for auditing federal funds. Now, what the auditors have shared with me is that they have performed some compliance testing over at DSS and Health using the draft guidance, but they cannot finalize the federal compliance portion until OMB guidance is officially issued. So what that means is they can come and present the financial reports because they don't think any numbers will significantly change with the OMB guidance and the compliance piece. But as far as hitting that button and saying that we've sent it after that presentation, it may take a few weeks. But the situation really is out of our hands locally. There's not a lot we can do. But albeit for that, we would be in a position to submit the audit in November, given that they could make that presentation to you before then. But at the latest, at your December meeting, but we have till December 31st, so we would still be ahead of time.
So that's a statewide issue?
Yes, sir. As I understand it, that's a statewide issue.
Nationwide.
Well, yeah, I guess nationwide. Thank you, Mr. Evans. But from my understanding, the LGC is aware of it, and there's not a whole lot we can do but wait and see. But we do intend to ask the auditors to speak to you about the financial condition of the county and give you their normal report, and hopefully soon.
Any questions? Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could note, more so I guess for the public that's here, all that we do here in county government, we strive for transparency. And I want the public to understand how important it is this monthly report is that we present. It's not presented just to the board, it's presented for the public. This summary report could be just emailed to you or given to you all, but it's presented in this public forum so that our citizens can see where we are, that we check in on our budget on a very regular basis, and that's important. It seems like a simple report. It's only a couple of pages or so. There are a whole lot of numbers behind all of this to get it to this point. It's a whole big financial engine with, I don't know, thousands of budget lines behind all of this. But this summarized report is important for us as staff, for you as the board, for our citizens to know that we are checking in, that we are monitoring the gauges, and we're seeing where our trends might be off, and if there's anything that raises a red flag. As you hear month after month, Ms. Barfield does a wonderful job of saying, we are here at this point, but this is generally where we are. This is where we would expect to be. Or there's a reason why the percentage is at this point at this time of the year. All of those indicators are tremendously important for us, and it's important for our citizens to be aware of this. These reports are posted on our website after they are presented. Also, you can go to our website, you can see all of our audits, financial statements with those audits. You can see our budgets, our budget ordinances for a number of years. It goes back. All of that is posted on our website. If you go to our homepage, scroll down a little over halfway, there's a button that says Financial Report, so you can see all of these things. I just wanted to highlight the importance of us sharing this information publicly for our citizens.
I think it's good oversight for some of the things that we probably had not done in the past. And it gives accountability for staff, and it serves to say that we are doing our oversight. So I think it does, it's got a lot of good purposes to it. So I think it, and it's, to me, it was understandable. I could follow it, which was more important, okay? I could follow what she was saying, okay? Any other comments? Moving on, you got your solid waste report. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, moving on to the manager's report.
You have under my report my monthly major events and updates, workforce development indicators for the month, the Tourism Development Authority's monthly financial report. I want to give you an update on the impact of the federal shutdown. Ms. Barfield mentioned some of the impact that we're feeling from that. I want to mention, I'm sure all of you have heard about this, seen it in the news, read about. One of the biggest impacts of this is on the USDA SNAP program, or Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It was initially published a couple of weeks ago that benefits did go out in October, but they would not go out in November because of the shutdown. The latest update, and I saw it as you all probably have, we've not gotten any guidance that I'm aware of, but it was announced from the White House that a partial disbursement for November will go out. We don't know yet exactly what that means and when that will happen. But just wanted to have everyone to have some idea of the scope of the impact on this for us. In North Carolina, there are 1.4 million people that receive assistance from this program, 600,000 of which are children. In Edgecombe County, we have just under 15,000 people in Edgecombe County who rely on assistance from this program. The average benefit is around $184. Totally for the county, it's right at $2 million that comes into our local economy through that program. So we'll have to see exactly what the disbursements will be for individuals on the program for the month of November, and certainly if the shutdown continues for an extended period of time, the impact would be felt even wider and deeper. The representatives from North Carolina Department of Human Services indicated on a call that I participated in last week, our county managers across the state. They are looking as to whether or not the state will be able to help counties with the federal share of the administration of the SNAP program. As you probably know, right now the cost for us to administer the program, 50% is covered by the federal government. That is reported and requested on a monthly basis, and that funding is sent back to the county on a monthly basis, to counties on a monthly basis. Right now, as far as we know, with the government shut, as long as it's shut down, we won't get that reimbursement. So North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, they are exploring the possibility of them, the state, reimbursing counties for that cost. And then they get reimbursed from the federal government, but we've not got any final word on that. Again, the longer this lasts, the more this not only causes issues for our citizens, but it causes issues for us from a cash flow perspective. The WIC program, the Women and Infant Children program, what we know as of now is that funding is available to maintain those benefits through mid-November. We are on standby to see if more federal funding will be received. The Low-Income Energy Assistance Program, right now, the state has indicated they have enough money available to provide that assistance for only the priority applicants, and that being elderly and disabled, and likely those who've received assistance before. Again, that could open up wider once the federal shutdown ends. Ms. Bess and I and Ms. Battle and some of her team who are here tonight, we met with a partner, a community partner, just on last week, just to hear what there are a number of organizations in the county that distribute food. They partner with the North Carolina Food Bank and other organizations to distribute food. They do that already. It's a need. It's a need that they're meeting already. They are talking about how can they expand those services. Governor Stein did announce that an additional $18 million in contributions will be going to those food banks. And we're just seeing from the county's perspective and what we might be able to support that, whether it be we make people aware of these services, or we can help them with identifying volunteers or what have you. So again, still it's tremendous impact that goes without saying. Hopefully all of this will be done and wrapped up soon. Happy to answer any questions about that. I have a couple of items under my report, but
Any questions?
wanted to pause there for a second.
Go ahead, myself.
I do want to say and thank you for those who were able to come to our community meeting in Rocky Mount on last week. We call it Our County in Your Community. I think we had good participation. I want to thank our department heads and other staff members that joined us that night. Our goal was to present to our community, to give an update from the county's perspective, to remind our community the services that we provide and the reason that we exist as a county. We gave some updates. Want to thank Dr. Andy Bryan, our superintendent, and Dr. Greg McLeod, president of Community College, who joined us as well and gave updates. And certainly we look forward for an opportunity to be able to do that in other areas of the county if the board would like to. Final thing would be, I was asked at the last meeting about our lobbyists. I will provide you a more detailed update from the lobbyists, but from what I received, just want to give you a few items. First of all, I want to make sure that we're all aware. Initially, we had our lobbyist is Moore Van Allen. It's a law firm that they have a lobbying arm like many law firms do. We went through a request for proposal process last year and selected them. Our primary contact is the attorney, Ms. Beth Friedrich, with Moore Van Allen. We've worked closely with her over that period of time. The initial contract was for 6 months, extended that for another 6 months. That contract ended in May. And so we're considering now if we will continue to need that service, and if so, we will likely bring a contract back to you. Initially, some of the primary work that the lobbyists did for us, they were instrumental in getting the state statute language change approved for the mega site fund. You'll recall there was an amendment that needed to be made for the program to be implemented as it was intended. She was very instrumental in getting that through the maze of approvals and on the right people's desk, and that was approved. She was able to keep, she and her counterparts were able to keep key projects before the leadership in the General Assembly that are important to the county, particularly at Kingsborough, For example, our training center that we've been talking about possibly building there on site, as well as a fire station there. Of course, we've not received funding for either of those, there's been some leadership change there at the General Assembly over the last several months. But our lobbyist was able to keep that in front of them. Before Natron closed down their project idea here in the county, our lobbyist was instrumental in working with us in drafting the application for the Golden Leaf Foundation. We were pursuing their economic catalyst funding to assist with some aspects of that project. And so that application still, we have that available and ready if there's another project we want to substitute for Natron. She's also kept us updated on a number of other legislative changes and certainly made our position known among the leadership there in the General Assembly. So just want to give you that brief update. I'll give you a more formal written report from the lobbying firm. We'll continue to have some conversation about whether or not we feel continuing that service will be necessary and needed for the county. So that's it for my report. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions of the manager? Anything from commissioners?
Just one comment.
Go ahead.
In watching other counties and municipalities, they have a report that comes from either the police department or the sheriff's department monthly about the activity that's gone on within that department and kind of some stats and talking points. I talked with the sheriff last week and asked if he could possibly include that in our agenda packet. If not in our agenda packet, then just in an email to the commissioners so that we can kind of see what those numbers are, know the amount of work that they're doing and how that looks. In particular, Bob, our partnership had received some questions about that through some third-party media sources, and it was quickly handled in the reports that they actually work that, hey, this isn't actually accurate. And so I think if we can get some more transparency in what those numbers are, I think it's always good. So if you see an email coming from that, he said that he could provide it every single day that you wanted it. I said monthly would probably be fine. So just wanted to share that with the board.
Any other questions?
Chairman Wiggins, I just got one thing, I'll be pretty quick here. I think Edgecombe County has a lot of things to offer that sometimes just aren't out there in the public's view. And what I'm going to mention is a couple weeks ago I had the opportunity to go pick up my little granddaughter Avery, and Dino Ellis's, Principal Dino Ellis for a number of years, his little granddaughter from gymnastics over Rocky Mount. I was just making a little routine conversation when I said, "What y'all learned in school today?" And you know what I was expecting, a little laugh. And they just hit me up with the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. I mean, I'm in awe. And so I immediately thought about our charters of freedom. And I, y'all may say I'm wrong and this may be happening, but I plugged in Google today, Charters of Freedom. We don't even come up on Google. Now, if you go to the website of the ones that actually established it, I think it's 45 counties and or municipalities that have Charters of Freedom. In my opinion, we need to do something to advertise that, to get that word out there. There needs to be an activity bus rolling in here from Martin County, from Pitt County, from Edgecombe County, every week to look at what we got down in front of that courthouse. I mean, you got something that, Nash County has it, Halifax County has it, we have it. You go around pretty much, and the other counties I mentioned do not have it. I just think, I don't know how to do it, but I think if our schools, and I'm not necessarily saying second graders, I'm saying junior high, 7th and 8th graders, that would be a great field trip that wouldn't take an hour and a half. They go back to school and don't have to go to Washington, but come right here to Tarboro and see that. However we can get it out,
Sure.
I think we need to do that.
We'll work on a plan to do that.
Thank you.
Great suggestion.
Thank you.
Oh, I wanted to report. I just attended a juvenile justice conference in Greensboro. That was excellent. A lot of things going on to try to keep our young people on the straight and narrow. I was very glad to see two representatives from here. The gentleman with our Boys and Girls Club that was there, and one from our juvenile court that was there. But it was a lot of information, good information. I believe if I'm gonna serve on a board, I need to know what they actually do and how I can help to get it done. So that was very, very interesting.
Any other comments from commissioners?
Mr. Edison, I spoke on the phone the other day about looking at our insurance, and we're getting ready to have an analysis done on how we've done the past year. So once we get that, I told him I didn't think much would happen till after Christmas.
Okay,
We'll
okay.
find out the good news and the bad news one way or the other.
Okay. Any other comments from commissioners? Mr. Peters?
No, sir.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we're scheduled to go into executive session for, I got to read them numbers, right, Ms. Evans? Discuss an economic development, NC, North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A4. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye. All opposed, we'll be going into closed session. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your presence.
that.
Don't matter.
Either, yeah.
Us.
I was instructed by the clerk that I had to call names, but I forgot that. I told her pick her one.
Somebody motioned it, anybody.
They won't remember who made it no
I
way.
know,
Take your
right?
stuff out so she can get the book.
You leave yours last time.
I got out what I needed.
You don't need nothing in the book.
Tell Mr. Larry he can start his pile.
My wife starts
I got
working.
plenty
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
We're back on.
That's your.
We're back on.
All right.
Is there anything that come in open session? Is there anything that come in open session?
One thing I want to tell everybody about.
Go ahead. Mr.
I don't know how many of y'all get the Evening Telegram.
Oops.
But I
Knock him out, Telegram.
in this past week, there is a very interesting article in there about cooling buildings by freezing water. Did anybody else see it? You need to look it up. It's coming to a theater near you.
Cooling buildings.
Yes, they freeze water overnight. You talk about chillers and all these things we've been talking about. They're freezing that water and using it to cool the building.
Well, ours is plenty cool. Got my arthritis hurt.
Okay, there you go, right there. Well, that's the
Is that what we
first
had
time I've
here
ever seen.
tonight?
Just something
That's what they do to
food
chickens.
for thought. Maybe our power cost. Yes, sir.
Motion adjourned?
Motion
The
adjourned.
cold,
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
I think it was your strategy. Keep it awake early and it's